Did you know that some fruits which are considered healthy can actually be dangerous for older people? One of them, often served for breakfast in hospitals, can raise blood pressure and cause heart rhythm disturbances within just 30 minutes. Sounds surprising, right? We all tend to think that fruits are always packed with vitamins, lightness, and benefits. But after the age of 60, the body changes. What was once easily digested may now overload the pancreas, affect blood pressure, cause bloating, or even provoke inflammation. And the most dangerous part is that most elderly people eat these fruits every day, unaware that they are actually worsening their health. In this video, I'll talk about 6 fruits that people in their later years should avoid. We will discuss why exactly these fruits cause problems, which organs they overload, and what you can eat instead to support your health, not harm it. At the end, you will learn about one very popular, healthy fruit that can cause a sharp drop in blood pressure in people with heart problems. Stay till the end, because sometimes it's the very things that are on our plate that slowly steal our health, and we don't even realize it. Starting with the first fruit that may surprise many because we tend to think of it as light, bright, and summery. But it is precisely this fruit that often harms older people, especially those with heart, stomach, or blood pressure issues. Grapefruit, a fruit that conflicts with medications. At first glance, it seems perfect, juicy, rich in vitamin C, refreshing. But grapefruit has one insidious feature that many people don't know about. It blocks the enzyme responsible for breaking down medications in the liver. Simply put, when a person takes medication for blood pressure, heart problems, or cholesterol, and then eats a grapefruit, the body doesn't have enough time to expel the medication properly. As a result, the medication accumulates in the blood, and its effects become too strong or toxic. Possible consequences: a sharp drop in blood pressure, heart rhythm disturbances, headaches, weakness, in some cases, even fainting. This applies not only to the fruit itself, but also to its juice, cocktails, and salads with grapefruit. It's especially dangerous for people who take statins for cholesterol, calcium channel blockers for hypertension, antiarrhythmic drugs, some antidepressants, and sedatives. And most importantly, grapefruit does not show harm immediately. Its effect accumulates over time and manifests as weakness, dizziness, and unexplained fatigue. Therefore, people over 60, especially those who take daily pills, should avoid grapefruit altogether. Instead, they can choose more neutral fruits that are also rich in vitamin C. Baked apple, ripe pear, rosehip, or kiwi, in small amounts if there are no acidity issues. Because remember, even the healthiest fruit can become poison if it fights with your treatment. The second fruit, very familiar, sweet, and loved since childhood. And because of this, it's eaten too often, especially as a snack or in porridge. But after 60, it can cause unpleasant consequences for the stomach, blood sugar levels, and the pancreas. Banana, a hidden enemy for blood vessels and sugar levels. Bananas seem harmless, soft, sweet, easily digestible. They are often given in hospitals, added to breakfasts, smoothies, and desserts. However, in the body of an older person, a banana may not work the same way it does in a younger person. What's the issue? Bananas are very rich in fast carbohydrates. This means they cause a sharp spike in blood glucose levels. After 60, many people already have impaired insulin sensitivity, and the more sudden sugar spikes there are, the more the pancreas becomes overloaded. This is especially dangerous for people with diabetes or prediabetes, those who are overweight, people with hypertension, or those with vascular problems, varicose veins, atherosclerosis, high cholesterol. Additionally, overripe bananas contain even more glucose and can cause bloating, heaviness in the stomach, weakness after eating, sudden fluctuations in blood pressure. This effect is insidious. It feels like you've eaten something light, but half an hour later, fatigue, drowsiness, ringing in the head. So, bananas are not a complete ban, but definitely not a daily fruit. And definitely not on an empty stomach, not in a smoothie with honey, and not before bed. If you really crave one, choose underripe bananas, a small piece, along with protein or fat. For example, a few slices with a spoonful of cheese or a handful of nuts. This way, the glucose will be absorbed more slowly and won't harm your blood vessels. The third fruit, often recommended as light, cleansing, and dietary, especially in fresh salads, compotes, and desserts. But for older people, it often causes irritation of the mucous membranes, stomach pain, and even exacerbates chronic issues. Kiwi, an acidic attack on a weak stomach. Green, bright, juicy, kiwi is often considered a source of vitamin C. And it does indeed contain a lot of it. However, it also contains a large amount of organic acids, which can be too aggressive for the body of someone over 60. Kiwi becomes especially dangerous if you have gastritis or increased acidity, you feel stomach pain after eating, you often experience heartburn, or you are taking medications that irritate the mucous membranes, such as heart medications, aspirin, or painkillers. Kiwi juice, although natural, affects the mucous membranes the same way vinegar does. It might seem like just a light tingling in the mouth, but in the stomach, this acidity provokes inflammation, worsens the healing of erosions, increases the risk of ulcers or the exacerbation of gastritis. And one more thing, kiwi is a strong allergen. For older adults with weakened immunity or chronic skin respiratory conditions, it can cause rash, swelling in the mouth, cough, or scratchy throat. What to do? Kiwi is not deadly harmful, but definitely not for daily consumption, and definitely not on an empty stomach. If you really want it, only after a main meal, a small portion, and not often. Even better, replace it with a baked apple, rosehip berries, or black currant as a drink or puree. They are also rich in vitamin C, but are not as aggressive on the mucous membranes. Because the stomach in old age is like thin glass, anything too acidic doesn't tone it, but eats it away. Fourth fruit, the one that often sits in a bowl on the table. It's loved for adding to salads, taking on the go, or giving to children. But for people over 60, it can be a silent enemy for blood pressure, kidneys, and even joints. Grapes, a sweet trap for kidneys and blood vessels. What could be simpler than a handful of grapes? A light snack, a bit of energy, heart benefits, as they say. But the reality for the elderly body is completely different. Grapes are one of the most sugary fruits. They contain a large amount of glucose and fructose, which are absorbed almost instantly. This means a sharp spike in blood sugar, strain on the pancreas, and with regular consumption, exhaustion of blood vessels and the nervous system. But the most dangerous part is the effect on the kidneys and joints. Grapes contain a lot of oxalates, compounds that, when consumed in excess, contribute to the formation of kidney stones, impair the elimination of uric acid, trigger inflammatory reactions in the joints. This is especially dangerous for people with hypertension, gout, kidney failure, a tendency to swelling or heaviness in the legs. Even dark grapes, which are considered antioxidant-rich, do more harm than good when consumed frequently in older age. Another trap is grape juice. It seems healthy, but in reality, it's a concentrate of fruit sugar without fiber. This even more quickly overloads the blood vessels and pancreas. What to do? Grapes can be eaten occasionally, a small handful, and only after meals. Do not consume with bread, cheese, or sweets. Do not drink grape juices, even homemade. Instead, it's better to have blueberries, bilberries, or even an apple with the skin. Less sugar, more benefit. Because sometimes what looks tender and juicy on the outside is actually a real burden for the kidneys and heart inside. Let's move on to the fifth fruit, which is often mistakenly considered a healthy sweet snack. It's taken on the go, added to cereals, compotes, and even given as vitamins instead of candies. But after 60, this product often disrupts metabolism, leads to issues with blood pressure, digestion, and even weight. Raisins, dried threat to blood vessels and the stomach. It may seem simple, just dried grapes, natural, with no additives, no coloring, light, sweet, but this is where the problem lies. After drying, raisins contain even more sugar than fresh grapes. It's a concentrate of fructose, without water, without balance. And that's why even a small handful of raisins contains as much sugar as an entire piece of cake. What happens in the body of an older person? Sugar spikes sharply in the blood, causing fatigue, headaches, and drowsiness after eating. The high potassium and sodium content in raisins can disrupt heart function and blood pressure. Due to their dense structure and lack of liquid, raisins often cause constipation, especially if a person doesn't drink enough water. Another trap is homemade compote made with raisins. It seems natural, but it's actually sugary water with an additional load on the pancreas. People with the following conditions should be especially careful: diabetes or the risk of diabetes, hypertension, chronic constipation, digestive problems. And one more point, many store-bought raisins still have traces of sulfur, which is used to treat the fruit during drying. This adds another toxic impact on the liver and intestines. What to do? Raisins should not be a daily food. If you really want some, add 3 to 5 pieces to your cereal with a spoon of flaxseed or olive oil to balance it out. Always drink water with them to avoid overloading the intestines. Better yet, replace them with a few pieces of baked apple, prunes, which actually help with constipation, or simply a handful of berries, frozen or fresh. Because raisins are not candy, they're a signal to the body: prepare for a big glucose spike. And after 60, the body doesn't always respond fast enough. I conclude this important topic with the last, 6th fruit, which many consider light, refreshing, and good for the heart. But it is in old age that it can cause serious discomfort in the stomach, heart rhythm disturbances, and even dehydration. 6. Melon, a sweet danger for the stomach and heart rhythm. A summer day. Ripe melon. The smell of summer, lightness, refreshing taste. Everything seems right until it starts to act inside. Melon is a very watery fruit with a high content of sugar and coarse fibers, which after 60 years can overload the stomach and intestines. What exactly happens? Melon ferments very quickly in the stomach, especially if eaten after the main meal. This causes bloating, cramps, diarrhea, and sometimes a sharp drop in blood pressure due to dehydration. People who have a weak stomach, kidney problems, frequent heart rhythm disturbances, a tendency to diarrhea or pressure fluctuations should be especially careful. In addition, due to the high potassium content in melon, if you eat a lot of it, especially together with heart medication, heart arrhythmia or muscle weakness may occur. This does not mean that melon is the enemy, but it should be eaten very carefully, and only under certain conditions, never after another meal. Melon, separately, and only 2 hours after a meal, a small piece. No more than 100 to 150 gram, and preferably not at night, not in the heat, and not while taking medications that affect potassium balance. Instead, in old age, it is better to choose a few spoons of berry puree, a pear, or even baked pumpkin. It is also sweet but easier to tolerate. Because melon is not an easy dessert, this is a quick challenge for the stomach, which a young body easily accepts but an older one often cannot withstand. We often think, if it is made of wood, then it is useful. But the body at 20, at 40, and after 60 is a different story. What once gave energy over the years can create a load. Here are 6 fruits that older people should eat with caution or avoid altogether. 1. Grapefruit blocks the effect of medications, especially heart medications. 2. Banana sharply increases sugar and overloads the pancreas. 3. Kiwi, aggressive to the stomach, especially with gastritis. 4. Grapes, too much sugar harms the kidneys and joints. 5. Raisins, glucose concentrate causes constipation, pressure. 6. Melon provokes fermentation, spasms, pressure drop, and arrhythmia. But this does not mean that after 60 life, without taste. On the contrary, here are fruits and berries that gently support the body in old age. Apple, baked or fresh with peel, pectin for the intestines, slow carbohydrates. Pear, easy for the heart, gentle for the stomach. Blueberries, improve memory, do not sharply raise sugar. Rose hips decoction, a source of vitamin C without acidity. Prunes, in moderate quantities, helps digestion and relieves tension in the intestines. Pumpkin, natural sweetness without harm, because the point is not to refuse, and in choosing for yourself with love. And remember, health in adulthood is no longer a pursuit of fashionable food. It's about softness, simplicity, clarity, about the fact that you eat not in order to survive, but in order to live in a good body, with a clear head and a light heart. Write in the comments, what fruits do you like, and have you recognized among them those that cause heaviness or other troubles? Subscribe to the channel if it is important for you to hear the simple, honest, understandable truth about life after 60. Here we are not talking about old age, but about wisdom. And we learn to take care of ourselves, not out of anxiety, but out of respect. Take care of yourself, and be sweet, not the fruit, you.